Welcome to the next edition of the Clutch Pearl podcast. I'm Noah Carter, and I'm once again the host. Just me here. We got a couple segments to get through today, as well as the usual Hog Heaven and Flying Illini segments. The first one is going to be kind of fun. I had Grant send me over some teams that I'm going to do a contender and pretender section on, but I actually have no idea what teams he named me. I just said, hey, give me some teams that you think could win a national title this year. They don't even have to be, you know, teams you think can win, but team people that uh, people are saying, pundits are saying that they could win. So that'll be fun. I don't really know what's coming for me. So it's going to be an instant reaction for me, just like it would be for you. Secondly, we're going to talk a little bit about AJ Dybantsa and where he committed to today. And I'm going to give you some Final Four picks. And then, as I mentioned, the Flying Illini Hog Heaven talk and a Clutching Pearls segment. That one's going to be interesting. I might get on a little rant session for that one. So I'm going to try to keep it brief for you. So first, let me get my text with Grant pulled up. Okay, we've got it. So as I mentioned, I'm going to do a little contender or pretender. So basically, I'm going to read off the team name. He says no particular order, so I'm just going to go in the order that he sent me. But I'm going to give a team. I'm going to say contender or pretender and try to make it about one sentence or so as to why I think they are a contender or whether they are a pretender. So, sorry, I'm having a little computer issues with my green screen here. Uh, anyways, Tennessee first. I actually think they're a pretender. I haven't really seen them necessarily play. Louisville's the only team that's semi decent, and even them, I'm not all that sure about how good Louisville is. They can beat anybody, but they can also lose to anybody the way they play, running that system that Pat Kelsey also ran at Charleston. So I'm not sure I'm sold on them. I'm not sure I'm sold on Tennessee. We'll get into it a little bit later, but they're coming to Champaign on Saturday as the number one team in the country. So it'll be interesting to see how they react on a true road test against a team that I consider a title contender. They're top 12 basically in everything but the AP poll because, well, we all know how the AP poll is. But Torvik, Kim Palm, uh, you name it, all the metric systems there around between 10 and 12. And I would consider that a title contender if you're around that area on all those formats. Defense is good, offense can be good. It definitely hasn't hit its stride yet. And Tennessee, they're also led by a guy named Chaz Lanier. And here we go. I'm getting on a tangent here. So I need to keep it a little more brief. But with Tennessee being the number one team in the country, I'm, going on. Anyway, sorry. But Chaz Lanier, he didn't even start for his team last year, and it was a mid-major, and now they're wanting him to basically replace Dalton Knecht. Tennessee couldn't win one, couldn't even get to the title game with Dalton Knecht, so I don't see how they're going to get there without him. Excuse me. Okay, so next, Duke, absolutely a contender. It's pretty simple. They got the best player in the country, or most talented player in the country, I should say, in Cooper Flag, and they have the right pieces around him. So really, with them, it's just about fit. And as they grow with a young team throughout the year, come February, March, that team's going to be really good. Kentucky, definitely a pretender for me. They're one of those teams. Illinois was kind of that team last year. They're one of those teams really old, and I'm going to actually group them with Auburn. I see he has Auburn on here. Both those teams, for me, are pretenders. They're really old, so they're going to win a lot of games early. They're going to beat up on a lot of the younger teams, even though Auburn did lose at Duke. But That's at Duke. But as the season goes on, I feel those teams don't really have much of a shot uh, due to even though Janai Broom is a star, I don't feel like they have NBA talent, and we've seen past 5 or 6 years definitely uh, title winning teams have NBA talent. Gonzaga, I do think they're a contender to win Mark Few's long awaited national title. The big thing with them though is who's going to step up. I think Caleb Battle will eventually step up throughout the year and become that go-to scorer because they have the stars in Nimhard and Ike, but they don't really have the guy they need when they need a bucket to go get one. And I think Battle will develop into that. UConn, definitely a pretender. Grant did say that's one team I knew was coming. He said, I still have faith in UConn as much as I would like to because Dan Hurley is a back-to-back champion and finds a way. I don't know. I'm not sold on Alex Caravan being the best player on a national title winning team. Caravan's a good player, but he's a good role player to me. He's more of a like a Kevin McCullough to a Hunter Dickinson or an Alex Caravan to Stephon Castle and Donovan Clingan. He's more of a Coleman Hawkins to Tanner Chan. You get the idea. I don't think he's a guy that is going to be able to just go get his own bucket. He's better suited to set, shoot, and slash. Kansas. I still think they're a contender. I know they just lost 2 tough road games, one at Mizzou, which never want to happen in a battle game. But that's the thing, is that's a rivalry game, so you got to take that with a grain of salt. You can't see that as it's Mizzou. You got to see it as Mizzou is more talented. And Mark Mitchell definitely played up to his potential, as did Tamar Bates. It's probably the first time in both their careers so far they've done that. And the other thing is, I like Dennis Gates, coach. I think he runs a good system, and I also think that system is one of those systems that's very well suited to expose Kansas' weaknesses. But I think as this team grows, those guys get more together, they'll be a good squad. Next, we have Marquette. I think they're a title contender. I have questions about their front court. I have questions about Ben Gold being a title winning center. But when you have arguably the best player in the country, in my opinion, he is the best guard in the country, and Cam Jones, it's hard to not be a title contender, especially in a year where some of the stars like R.J. Davis, Mark Sears have kind of not been their best selves. Iowa State, I think they're a pretender. I think they could make a Final Four, but it's situation again. They're kind of like Auburn. They're old. They're cohesive. They could make a deep run, but I feel like there's a cap to that team that's not a national title, and it's because they just don't have that NBA talent that I'm really looking for in a title contender. And lastly, Alabama. I actually think they're a pretender too. I really like this Alabama squad. I think they're the best squad in the SEC, but I don't like how I know Stevenson has been playing better. Nelson is a star, but Morier has not been good, and playing those 3 bigs together it still just does not make a lot of sense to me, plain and simple. And if I'm being frank, I think they were better off with Nick Pringle than Cliff Morier if they wanted to win a title. So that's all I had for that segment. I hope you enjoyed it. I hope I didn't get too off topic. Sorry about that. So next, we're going to talk a little bit about AJ Dybantsa. He went to First Take, which was very interesting to commit. Some guys that are more NBA guys, they don't really watch college basketball. So that should tell you where AJ Dybantsa's mind is. And he is going to BYU. And supposedly he signed his NLI 3 weeks ago. and it is expected he makes $7 million in NIL valuations. And yes, that does include the deal already with Red Bull and Nike, but still $7 million for a guy who, I don't know. Are we even sure this guy's going to play a full season of college basketball, or is he going to play like 3 weeks and be like, all right, see, I got what I needed to prove. I had a couple 30 pieces. Everybody knows I'm the number one pick. See ya. Like, what are we doing here? And BYU, come on now. Nobody wants to see this kid play at BYU. It don't even have to be a blue blood. Just be a national title contender. Kevin Young can't win a national title. We've seen he don't even let Yegor Demeen be the star player on a team he should clearly be the star player on. Like, what the hell, man? Like, what are we doing? I I don't know. I don't get it. It comes down to all he's worried about is making money. All his dad's worried about is making him money, and it is what it is. More power to you. I mean, be hard to turn away $7 million. Not been in that situation. I probably won't ever will be. But I, you're telling me Kentucky, Alabama, Duke, North Carolina, Illinois, all these other teams that maybe couldn't afford to throw that much bag at you, but you'll have a chance to win a national title. You're telling me you would rather go to BYU and not win a national title? This is like when Cade Cunningham went to Oklahoma State. It just doesn't make any sense. And I don't know, that's my quick hitter. That's my take. The big segment for today is going to be the quick Final Four picks. I'd say quick, but I kind of went through contenders or pretenders, but I didn't really go into it that much about you know will it realistically happen, will it won't. And the fact of the matter is, I have no idea. I could end up picking 4 teams in the same bracket. I could pick up 2 teams that don't even make the tournament. Last year, I picked the North Texas Mean Green, and they ended up in the NIT, and they were my sleeper run pick. So we'll see. Um, but let's start off with this: Duke and Illinois, two of the younger teams in the country, also two of the most talented teams in the country. I think they both make a Final Four. Uh, I, I'm not just saying this because I'm an Illinois homer, uh, but these teams feel like the prototypical 2 or 3 seeds, probably. I think if you win the Big Ten or ACC, you're guaranteed for a top 3 seed for sure, no matter what your record is. And I see them both winning their conferences and probably fairly handily. I know Illinois did lose at Northwestern. Duke's had a couple losses here and there, but either way, you get my point there. And plain and simple, when you have Kasparis, Jakusionis, Cooper Flag, Kon Knipple, Tomislav Ivicic, uh, guys like that, it's hard not to like those rosters coming the end of the year. These teams are going to continue to grow. They're going to continue to get better. And I just like them a lot. I mean, I got Coop up here. Sorry, other end over here. I got Coop over here on my board. Tells you I'm a big fan of his. I think they're going to get to the Final Four because, like I mentioned in the bit earlier, contenders are pretenders. My contenders are teams with NBA talent. Those 2 teams have NBA talent. That's why I'm also going to pick Baylor. I'm going to stand behind them. Uh, I still like VJ Edgecombe a lot. He's continuing to grow into his own. I really like Norchad Omier, and I like Jeremy Roach. Jeremy Roach is a seasoned vet. That dude plays. He's a winner. He's won everywhere he's went in his college career. Um, so I'm going with them. I do like Scott Drew. I do think this team has some questions, especially defensively. But as we saw with Illinois last year, teams can make a deep run without having a good defense. And Scott Drew's a good defensive coach, so I think this team will probably figure out a system that works for them. I don't know that the 2-3 is the way to go, but that's what they're still going with so far. So maybe we'll see if they stay in that 2-3, they might not be able to make a run. Uh, but I trust them. Lastly, I know I said there's a ceiling to this team, but the Iowa State Cyclones are my other pick. I'm going two Big 12 teams. Uh, this is their ceiling. Final Four is a ceiling. Uh, they're a good squad. Uh, they're tough. They play hard. And I think it would be good for college basketball, honestly, too, to see a team like that maybe doesn't have the NBA talent but has a very good college basketball squad. Because I think it'll help you see more coaches um, understand kind of like what Brad Underwood had to go through last year. I know I've been on record about this. I know he's talked about it a lot. And I talk about Brad Underwood because I'm an Illinois fan. But Brad, he talked about when they played UConn, he was like, we have a talent gap. We have a really good group. They play hard. They're cohesive. Uh, you know, they're good players, and we did good with this squad this year, but we're never going to hit a national title ceiling with a roster made up of these guys. We need more NBA talent. Terrence Shannon's not enough. Uh, and he went out and got Kasparis, who's and the thing about Shannon too is he's more of an NBA role player type guy. Kasparis has a chance to be a future NBA star. Ivicic has a chance to be a very, very, very good big in the NBA. He can pass it, he can shoot it. He's 7 foot. He's the perfect modern big man for today's game. Uh, Will Riley, uh, easy NBA talent. So, I mean, you get the picture. He totally remade his roster full of NBA talented guys. Not saying they're all going to get there, they're not all going to meet their talent, but he went and got those guys. And I think Iowa State's going to get to the Final Four, and whichever one of these teams they play is going to kind of expose them for not having NBA talent, because the NBA talent's going to shine. And that's where you're going to see teams kind of look back at like, you know what? I think we all need to go out and get NBA talent. And so that's where I stand here. I stand that teams without NBA talent can get there. I mean, Florida Atlantic's gotten there. San Diego State's gotten there. I go on and on. I mean, anybody can make a magical run in March, especially with draws and such. But title winners come from NBA talent. And I think teams are going to continue to see it. And see it. So that's all I got there. So now to my flying Illini talk. I'm going to shy away from the hog heaven. I don't really have much to say about that without Grant being here and such. And I kind of touched on it last week. But first of all, Coach Brad Underwood yesterday in a press conference, he kind of backtracked what he had said after the Northwestern game. His initial reaction was, I know you guys wanted me to play, my bench more, Merez more. But even though Humrick House didn't have it from three tonight, I still trust his veteran leadership. I still trust his shooting. Well, he then changed that and said, I should have played Merez more. I probably should have went deeper on the bench. That tells me that man watched the film and looked at it and was like, you know what? Merez helps a lot on defense. He helps a lot on offensive rebounding. That's the one thing that the Illini honestly have struggled outside of Merez and Will Riley is offensive rebounding. And so getting those two guys on the floor is important. I've said it. It was the case in the Northwestern game as well. Illinois' best lineup is Kylan, Kasparis, Will Riley, Perez, Ivisic. I think I would not be surprised to see Will Riley start tonight in place of Trey White. And I would also not be surprised if we see a lot more Perez after Brad's comments. And I really appreciate Brad kind of backtracking what he said, his initial reaction, and kind of recognizing, maybe I was wrong. And that's why Brad is so good at adapting. The one thing he needs to get better at though is adapting in game. I didn't feel like it was a secret, even without looking at the plus minuses, that when that group of five was in the game, Illinois played the best. So why do we keep going back to Trey White, keep going back to Hum Rickhouse? And the thing about Hum Rickhouse is they just continued going at him and going at him and going at him, really nitpicking. A team like Northwestern, it's going to be the same thing tonight with Wisconsin. So I'll go ahead and kind of blend those two together too. Is they have two guys, and they're going to look to back you down. They're going to look to kind of play booty ball like Illinois did. Northwestern's going to do that. Wisconsin's going to do that. And so the thing about those teams is if they're finding a specific guy, and that guy was Hum Rickhouse, and that guy is also not giving you anything offensively because he doesn't rebound, he doesn't handle the ball well. He is a 45% shooter normally in his career from three. So when he's making them, you want him on the floor, whether he can play defense or not, especially with how Illinois wants to play. But the issue is he was not making them. He went 1 for 9 from three, and that one was really late. I believe it might even been in overtime. So the thing about that is make an adjustment, sit that guy, play your best five on that night. And I think on the year, that's going to be your best five. They're your most talented. It's all your NBA talent. I don't care what people say about Hum Rickhouse. He can't guard good enough to be in the NBA. Trey White can't shoot it good enough to be in the NBA. He can only play 16 minutes as a starter on this Illini team. He's not going to the NBA. Kylan's kind of small, but he might be the best guard defender in the country. And so he's got to play with your four NBA talents. Plain and simple. But here's what I will say about that overtime loss, though. It didn't change my effect. Clearly, I mean, I picked Illinois to go to the Final Four, and it shouldn't really affect anybody. The AP definitely overreacted, taking Illinois out of the top 25, dropping them from 19 to plumb out. I think they dropped like 10 spots, like if you factor in the places after, with the voting and everything. And I just don't understand it. Like, they lost in overtime to a Northwestern squad that is going to finish in the top half of the Big Ten. They're good enough to finish in the top half of the Big Ten, and they're going to because they're really good at home. In the last 3 years, ranked teams in that building are 0-5. So it's not a secret that place is hard to play. So it'll be really interesting to see how Illinois plays this week against Wisconsin and Tennessee, because Wisconsin is going to come out in the same way as Northwestern did. The only difference, is that Wisconsin doesn't play defense. So it'll be really interesting to see as to what Illinois does. Do they kind of go the same thing and just hope to outscore Wisconsin, or do they try to go something different? And like I said, I think Will Riley starts tonight. He should start over Trey White, but Trey White does give them a lot of things defensively, so it'll be interesting to see. I truthfully would like to see Illinois just start the best five, start two bigs together, but I do understand wanting to stagger them. But plain and simple is Sparris needs to play upper 20. I don't believe anybody needs to play necessarily 30 minutes on this team, but Kasparis and Kyle need to play upper 20s. Will Riley needs to play upper 20s. Perez needs to play upper 20s. Ivisic needs to play upper 20s. your extra minutes, yeah, they should go to Rickhouse. Rickhouse should play probably in the high teens, maybe low 20s. Same with Trey White. Trey White playing about the minutes he needs to. I think the minutes are getting closer and closer to what they will be, what they should be. But the big thing is, I would just like to see it earlier. I think Illinois has been struggling out of the gate. I know they didn't against Arkansas, but for the most part, if Rickhouse isn't drilling threes, they're struggling out of the gate. And I think that's a big thing. Why not go to the one of the best pure scorers in the country and Will Riley right off the bat? Like, why wait to put that guy on the floor, especially when you're a team that, I mean, with how good Kylan is defensively, Ivisic is good defensively, affects shots at the rim, and doesn't foul. He's been a pleasant surprise. Kasparis is better than people give him credit for defensively. Really, Rickhouse is the only weak spot defensively. I would actually make an argument that Will Riley is a better defender than Rickhouse. And you're telling me that Rickhouse is a better scorer than Will Riley? What? No way, Jose. In no world is that the case. Will Riley is a star. Put that dude on the floor. Okay. So, anyways, I kind of previewed Tennessee earlier. It's really about, do you believe the teams they've played? I believe they have to be the number one team in the country right now, but do you really believe the teams they've played? Do you believe in Chaz Lanier? I don't. Kasparis going to go for 20 again tonight. Probably go for 20 again on Saturday. I think the Illini go 2-0 this week, and I think they won't in the AP poll. They're going to be top 5 in the net, or top 5 to 8, I should say, in the net. Bart Torvik and Kim Pom. They're going to be top 5 to 8 in all three, and they should be. And they're going to be top 5 to 8 in my rankings. I'd have to look at it again, but I think they already are. That's not going to change for me. I'm not going to waver unless I see something really bad this week. But it'll be interesting to see. And yeah, thank you for that. Lastly, we have the Clutching Pearls segment. Who's ready to find out what clutch my pearls this week? Leave it to the Big Ten officials. Week 1, conference play, and they're already doing ridiculous things. Purdue loses to Penn State at Penn State, and the final score is a lot closer than it really was. Penn State was blowing them out. Ace Baldwin does the signature ice in the veins celly that Braden Smith did to a lot of teams last year, including Illinois when they clinched the Big Ten title. Purdue clinched the Big Ten title last year in the regular season. And so Ace Baldwin does it back, gets teed up. What? Braden Smith never once got teed up for that, and nor as he should. Yet somehow we're going to tee up Ace Baldwin for that? For doing it back to him? Are you kidding me? What in the world is going on, dude? Like, what? Ace Baldwin is a star, man, and we can get into that more. But the Big Ten officials got to quit. Like, just grow a pair. Let the kids celebrate. Let the kids play. It's college basketball, and they're getting paid like professionals. Let them act like professionals. Let them celebrate. Let them have some fun. Let Ace Baldwin be Ace Baldwin. He locked Braden Smith's ass up, and he also dominated on the offensive end. So let him know. He deserves to let Braden Smith know. Braden Smith is one of the mouthiest, cockiest, shit-to-him players in the country, and I love that about Braden Smith. But if somebody gives it to him, they need to give it all the way. I love what Ace Baldwin did, and he did not deserve a technical. And if I'm the head coach, I'm coming absolutely unglued over that. And Rhodes did. Let's be clear, Rhodes did. But, yeah. Big Ten officials, can we please get better? Please. This is another episode brought to you by Caleb Mawson Media. So we at the Clutch Pro Podcast, thank you for coming on. Don't forget to give us a follow on YouTube, Twitter, X, excuse me, and keep following along with us. Like and subscribe. Thank you.